So as you may have seen, CUNA had a very busy week last week. In conjunction with a field hearing held in Kansas City, Missouri, the CFPB released their proposed rule for small dollar lending. The rule is actually over 1,300 pages long, and it's very complex. One positive in the field hearing is that Director Cordray recognized that credit union products are the model product in this market. However, we do have concerns that consumer-friendly credit union loans have been swept into this rule. Although we do appreciate that there are some aspects of the rule that are targeting predatory practices. So the rule conditionally exempts the Pell program, which is something that CUNA had been advocating for after the SBREFA proposals swept in the NCUA program. And we appreciate that the CFPB addressed some of our concerns that we brought to them after the SBREFA proposals. However, we still believe that credit unions will have difficulty meeting some of the requirements that are laid out in the rule. There's also another exemption for loans that have a low default rate of under 5%. And CUNA is continuing to analyze that exemption to determine whether it could be good for credit unions. Also, another important aspect of the proposal is that the CFPB recognized their authority under Section 1022 of the Dodd-Frank Act to conditionally exempt certain classes of institutions. And this is something that we've been asking them to do for several months now. And 329 members of Congress also asked them to look at this ability to exempt consumer-friendly products. So we really appreciate the fact that now they understand that they have this tool in their toolbox. And we're hoping that they use it in a more meaningful way in the final rule and in other rules going forward. The complex nature of this rule really concerns us, especially since credit unions have been subject to thousands of pages of other regulations over the past several years. So we're definitely going to take Director Cordray up on his offer to work with us to try to make this rule as good as possible for consumer-friendly credit union products. And the CFPB will actually be accepting comments for this until September 14th of 2016. So we're going to be seeking widespread feedback from our credit unions and working with our Advocacy Committee and Consumer Protection Subcommittee to try to determine how this rule can be better for credit unions. So last week, CUNA filed a comment letter with the FCC in response to their implementation of the Budget Act. And what this does is the Budget Act removed from the TCPA requirements to obtain prior express consent when using an auto dialer when collecting debt owed to or guaranteed by the federal government. And in our review of the FCC's proposal, which they put out on May 4th and had opened for 30 days for comment, we determined that it had a lot of the same problems that the July TCPA order had last year, which credit unions found very unworkable. So we addressed three concerns in our letter. First, we took issue with the very narrow reading of the Budget Act. They basically only will allow 3 calls per month under the exemption, which we don't think is very helpful to those utilizing this exemption. There's also several other conditions such as calling reassigned numbers and only a 1-call safe harbor if you're calling a wrong number. So we outlined that in our letter. We also asked them to include some of the debts that credit unions may be collecting on, which would be mortgage debt and small business loans, which clearly fall under that category. Third, we really just take the opportunity to reiterate our concerns with the July order, which continues to plague credit unions. It created very onerous restrictions on the ability to call consumers using an auto dialer, which incidentally conflicts with a lot of guidance that the CFPB has given to credit unions in encouraging them to contact distressed consumers on their cell phones. So we outlined concerns with that. Ultimately, we really just asked them to take a look at how they're implementing the TCPA, because we feel that the way they've done it in these past few rulemakings does not really take into consideration how consumers use their cell phone and really how this law needs to be modified to consider modern technology. So that letter is on our Removing Barriers blog, and I encourage everyone to take a look at it. So Congress is back in session this week, and there's just 2 things I wanted to highlight for you. Chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, Jeb Hensarling, is going to be releasing his white paper on concerns with the Dodd-Frank Act, so keep your eyes out for that. Also on Thursday, there's going to be a hearing in the House Education and Workforce Committee focusing on the new overtime rules. CUNA has expressed some concerns that because of the new threshold, which is double what it previously was to qualify for overtime, moving from $23,000 annual salary to approximately $47,000 annual salary, and sweeping in a number of more credit union employees. This week on Thursday, the House Education and Workforce Committee is also holding a hearing on the new overtime rules, and CUNA has expressed concerns about some of the unintended consequences of these rules. It basically sweeps in a lot more credit union employees than previously were eligible for overtime under the old rules. It changes the salary threshold from approximately $23,000 now to about $47,000. So we're sending a letter to the committee outlining our concerns with these unintended consequences, and that'll be available on our Removing Barriers blog. So everyone keep an eye out for that, and we're going to be closely monitoring the hearing and letting everyone know what we hear.